crime or suspected for any financial crime or whatever, the burden of proof is on me to prove that to the court that I own that money legally or I earned it through a legal means.
Okay.
Right now, what they have done now is to say that look, the burden of proof should now go to the prosecuting agency. That is, so if you arrest me, either EFCC, NDLEA, the Nigerian police, DSS, whoever it is that is prosecuting, must prove to the court that the monies or whatever it is that they found with me was earned illegally. However, so having said that,
Was
it
earned legally.
was earned illegally.
Okay.
That's what they need to prove,
Okay.
so that they, before the forfeiture. Now, the other part of the law, every other thing about it remains the same. Compensating the person, the whistleblower, safety of the whistleblower, nothing within all of that has changed. The significant change is just that item of transferring burden of proof, whichever way. Now, this now goes back to tell us that the investigating agencies must always come with their A game all the time. We don't want the issues now that it is more difficult to prove. Before now, all like they need to do is get me to the court, and I need to start struggling to say I earned this. Now it is now then that I need to prove that we found him here, there. So it means that they must do their investigations properly.
Properly.
They must do everything, cross all the T's, dot all the I's, circle all the zeros, whatever they need to do before they approach a court for a warrant, before they bring any suspect to court, so that it does not amount to waste of time and the waste of public funds in prosecuting something that they will not get a conviction, or that it will leave the government open for litigation. Because if you take me to court on that kind of thing and I win in court, I might come back to sue you and the government for defamation of character, that
Okay.
kind of thing. So that's what the law, the enforcement agencies need to be wary of, and they must be ready to do properly.
All right. Thanks so much for that. Although there's a part that that's critical to the story here. They talk about the whistleblower. Does the law protect the whistleblower?
Yeah, that's what I said earlier, that everything else in the law before now remains
It's
the
the
same
same.
essentially. So the provisions for protection of the whistleblower, the reward system, all of that remains the same.
All right. Let's move on to our next story. It's from the Guardian newspaper. It talks about what happened yesterday at the Apongbon Bridge. So squatters, traders under the bridges have been given a vacation order. Now, all squatters living or trading under bridges across Lagos State have been told to leave in 7 days or face forceful eviction. Now, the ultimatum was given after an early morning fire raised makeshift shops built under the Apongbon end of Eco Bridge on Wednesday morning. And basically, they're saying that all the illegal occupants on the bridges would be, they would be ejected. If not, they would be asked to pay some type of fine. What do you make of the story?
Let me start by saying that it's rather unfortunate that in 2022 that that kind of events will still be happening in our environment. It's very unfortunate, and it is 2 days too late. The notification is in the minimum 2 days too late. Why do I say that? We all know what we see every time we pass all these bridges, all these open spaces.
Okay.
Neighborhood, any open space, somebody sets up a shop, somebody sets up anything, they
A
sell
counter
anything
to
and
sell things.
everything.
Yes.
You see people's open flames just next to the fence of somebody else's house, and so on and so forth, and somebody is collecting rent for the person to be there. And that's what we have seen. It's a reflection of our permit me to say, our anyhowness about how we treat things that we should take important. The use of public utilities, our consciousness of our own safety, the disregard for laws, and so many other things that we see around us every day. If you go, there's in Lagos today, as far as I know, maybe there are only two bridges or interchanges that are probably not as
Congested.
as rowdy and as lawless as you see in all other places. The one in Osborne, which has been converted to a garden where people play football, and I think the one at Costain where the Brewery Giants have turned to some kind of a viewing center or something.
Okay.
I'm not sure there's any other one in Lagos. Go to Ijora, go to even the Adeniji there. If you go to that one on that the Adeniji, exactly you see they sell everything and anything there. People live there permanently like it's a home.
Same thing like Obalindi. A
And
lot
everywhere
across all platforms, really.
everywhere you see all that. And then these bridges, we know that these bridges are owned, these roads, bridges, open spaces, they don't just exist. There should be some form of control about how it is put to use, and those are the things that we need to enforce, right? Enforcement of these laws must happen. The matter that our law enforcement go on, they close at 5 o'clock like the rest of us, they also go on weekend breaks like the rest of us, and it gives room for all these things to continue to happen. So it would say that, for example, okay, there's a market at the end of the street. In the morning, everybody will go to the market. In the evening, when law enforcement has closed, everybody will come to the road and under the bridges and occupy it. So they continue and they never leave. And that's what we have seen. And it's so bad. A picture of the bridge I saw yesterday, I hope it's not true. I'm convincing myself that the picture was photoshopped or something. I don't think that that bridge is going to be used in a long time. I mean, there's going to have to be some form of integrity test. Now, the effect of that is that once that bridge is closed, traffic is going to be diverted to other places. It will put
Okay.
more pressure on other roads. So we've reduced the access to the island from the mainland by one. So the pressures of everybody that ordinarily use that place, they'll face other directions, maybe the two or other three link roads to the island, and then
You're
there's
talking
more
about the
pressure
Third
on
Mainland
those
Bridge.
ones.
Yes.
Exactly. So this is the immediate effects of the lawlessness that all of us have either
Been a part
partaken
of.
in or seen and not taking any action. And now this is a time, it's never too late. This is a time for the Federal Ministry of Works and Housing, the owners of these bridges and open spaces, to effectively take over these places and manage them such that they can put them to whatever other use that will
As
not
opposed to having
endanger
makeshift
other,
shops.
exactly, that will not endanger other people's lives.
All right, thank you so much for that, Lakanle. But let's get into some of the messages here. This one says, "Good morning, guys. Thank God for the housing schemes Jaconde did. If every government had continued with the housing schemes, that can actually be affordable by now. All Lagosians can say what they are saying. Evacuation to where, basically, that's what she's asking, and that's Jane Itse. This one from Lady says, "The conversation of pedestrian walkways to markets on Lagos roads is one of the most annoying use of public spaces in Nigeria." Taya comes in to say, this vacation order would last only for 1 month. After that, it's back to business. I say it again, Third Mainland Bridge is the only safe place because of its location, but for how long would it be safe? I think business owners should start considering insurance rather than relying on limited government support. And this one here from Yinka Bolu says, who are those collecting tax for that underbridge? Let's start from there. Mr. C comes in to say, the law that provides for whistleblowers and the protection is well intentioned, but the system in Nigeria is broken, and some of the employees, the former Senate president who stormed the office of a prosecuting agency to clear his name, having heard his name was mentioned in an interrogation session of another individual. We need systems and enforcement of existing laws. All right, thank you so much, Mr. C. Real quick, let's move on to our next story. This one talks about new measures that the Lagos State government is taking. So the uh, checkout safety measures in newly launched Lagos taxi scheme. Now, the Lagos State governor, that's Babajide Sanwo-Olu, on Wednesday rolled out the first batch of 1,000 brand new automobiles for modern taxi scheme in the state. Now, this comes barely a month after a 22-year-old tailor, that's Oluwabamiche Anyanwola, uh, was missing and later found dead after using a Lagos-owned bus rapid transit vehicle. So, you read the story. Could you walk us through it?
Uh, so I find that Punch tried to be a little bit cheeky by linking this
Those two.
launch
There's a
with
reason why I
that
actually even
story.
mentioned that as well.
I think that they are doing the Lagos. They are trying to. They are doing a little bit of injustice to Lagos State government with by linking these two stories. That they are two different stories. Okay, so but let's just
Let's
face the and bundle them and face the real story of it is that they've launched this Lagos taxi scheme. Yeah. So
yes.
um, the governor had yesterday rolled launched it and is guaranteed us. That's where I would like to start from. It's guaranteed all our safety if we use these taxis
Yes.
because he was so um, he laid a lot of emphasis on the safety measures
Should we highlight
that
the safety measures?
are
Because
okay.
I see a
So
number of them here.
he says that the said it has a full security gadget, including a 360 dashboard camera, which will give 24-hour audio-visual feeds to the control center and had been pre-installed to each car deployed for the scheme. He also said that the car has a physical panic button, which could be used by anyone on board.
And
And then
also
the
is
app
connected to a mobile
also
app.
and the app for this scheme. There's an app for this scheme. Also has that panic button in it, connected directly to the control center. So he was so emphatic about this part of in his
Safety.
speech, the safety. So so Lagos State that tells me that um the concern about safety in in public places is a key driver of this scheme.
Hmm.
Having said that, the other part of it for me also then is that when we look at it in the real sense of it, what Lagos needs because of the limited roads that we have are mass schemes, not unitary schemes like this one. Now, okay, so this
When you say
cars,
mass schemes, how do you mean?
I mean, um, um, like I would say that maybe what we should be thinking of is increasing the capacity of the BRTs, fast tracking the red and blue line that is under construction, and so on, so that it can move more people per time. Now, this was 1,000. We'll probably say, okay, let's assume it takes 4 people each. That's 4,000 people per time. But the train from Agbadi to CMS will carry the same 4,000 in one single trip per time. So that's what I mean. But it's not to say that it is not a good thing. But if given the choice, and I was the one, I would have preferred to
To
go that
expand on
route.
already what's
Exactly,
already existing.
exactly. So, but then the third thing that I also want to highlight is that we've been here before. Lagos State government had done similar things. Remember, there was one about some yellow cabs that was
Yes.
done with one of the big banks that stood guarantor. Am I
Yes,
permitted
yes,
to
yes,
mention the
yes.
name
No,
of the
no, it's
bank?
okay. That's
Okay,
fine.
one bank stood guarantor for the cars in those days. I see some of those cars around now, and I'm like, man,
Yes, they're
this
all
money is
in
went into
record
this
now.
thing. And there was also another one after that, the red
Although I
cab.
feel like this new initiative is modeled after the new ride hailing services
Yes, I
that we have.
understand that. I'm driving at a point that there was also the red cab thing that also went and also just disappeared all of a sudden. So I'm praying that this one is modeled like a real business and that it will be self-sustaining because it said that it's supposed to be a hire to own. So okay, so if I hire now and I pay overtime and I own it at the end of the day, so if I've owned it, the guarantees that the government is giving at the beginning while I'm on hire, is it still subsisting when I
Hmm.
now own it? Or I can take out the name of Lagos right on now that I own it and decide what I want to do with it. So that end of it is something that needs to be clear to us. But all in all, congratulations to Lagos State at least for bringing this to the light.
Okay.
Not everybody has promised to do something about things like this and have brought it to the end. So we will see how it goes. We will download the app and we will use the
You
ride.
say we'll download the app.
Yes.
All right. I want. Okay, so this one here from Ovis from Yaba. Yaba, he says, same risk is facing Third Mainland Bridge as the sharks are approaching under the bridge towards Bariga end. I bet you buses will soon start calling bus stops on the bridge nearby. EK Peter comes in to say we should also empathize with those who lost millions as a result of the inferno, regardless of regardless of whether or not they were illegally occupying the bridge. Ibokun comes in to say, "Good morning, crew. And is the government's
Good point, that one.
Yes, is the government going to evacuate the mighty NURTW? There is a cartel running and collecting rents and other monies from the traders. All right. And George comes in to say, roads are congested. Why bring more cars to the roads with bad roads? After I press the panic button, what next? Uh, um, okay. I can't read out the last bit of what he mentioned, but it's okay.
I mean, I
Uh,
think we should just focus on the good part of it more
Yes,
than
he's saying that will I be
um,
rescued? Let me rephrase what he's trying to say. Will I be rescued before anything happens once he presses the panic button? That's what the question is asking. Uh, Bola comes in to say, we are always reactive in our governments, in our governance. The bridge and many others and many other disasters are the bridge and many other are waiting to happen. Have you noticed how the state has been on a down slope under this government? Another disaster waiting to happen is the Okada. So many of them always driving against traffic. And that's another fair point. Now, OB Michael comes into I'm not I'm not in support of those people selling and sleeping under the but I think if the government had provided an enabling environment for the people, these things would not happen. And this is Michael from Apapa. All right, let's move on to our next story. This one talks about the Electoral Act. So, Senate to appeal ruling allowing political appointees contest primaries. That's on the Punch newspaper. So, the Senate has resolved to appeal the judgment of the Federal High Court, Umaya, nullifying Section 8412 of the Electoral Act. Could you talk us through the story?
that's the biggest elephant in the room in Nigeria today as we approach 2023.
Okay.
It is the um, popular and famous Section 84, Item 12 of the Electoral Act of 2022. Would recall, we all know the history of this act before it became a law eventually. When Mr. President first said, "Hey, I'm not going to sign this because da 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 da," and then when he eventually signed, said, "Okay, I'm signing because I need to be seen that I want this thing to happen, but I'm still going to recommend that this happen." And then some out of the blues, somebody in Umaya, I think, yeah, went to court and got a judgment to say, look, this item, delete it from the law. Okay, so my first instinct or my first thought as an average Joe is, okay, so the can the law court tell the people who make the law to delete their law as this is the case?
Okay.
That's the judiciary now telling the person who makes the law that they're supposed to be interpreting, tells them, look, this your law is not right, go and delete it. Should that be the pronouncement in itself? But by and large, for me, this is politics at play. All these people know what they are doing. While I have said that, it's also good that we are testing these laws that we are making every day in the courts so that we can have clarity of what the intention and the spirit of these laws are. Let's keep testing them. Let's see where we end up with them. But the most important thing of all of this is that people like you and I should not lose sight or focus that some of these things is not about us, it's about the selfish interest of the people who are making these laws, and that we should not join them to perpetrate anything that will cause disorder. We should just allow these people to sort this out among themselves, which they will at some point, and that's just basically what I would how I want to end this on that.
All right. Real quick, let's move on to our next story. Let's talk about oil theft, basically. So, from the Vanguard newspaper, crude oil theft and vandalism, Pangasan and Pandef, and Hostcom tangle over Niger Delta's involvement. And this is quite the allegation. It's in fact a very heavy allegation. But I'm going to put a background to the story, and you can give us the details. So, the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, that's Pangasan, Pan Niger Delta Forum, PANDEF, and host communities organization, HostCom, yesterday disagreed over the alleged involvement of Niger Delta stakeholders in crude oil theft and vandalism. And Pengasen, the president, is saying that that's Festus Osifo. Who addressed the newsman, said that the country was losing as much as 500,000 barrels of crude oil per day to theft and pipeline vandalism, alleging high-level collusion by stakeholders in the Niger Delta. Like I mentioned, there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of pointing fingers. But what do you make of the story?
When I when when I read the story, fella song came to my head again. And you be thief, I don't be thief, you be rogue, I don't be rogue, argument, argue. I mean, it's so obvious the fact that all of them sit down to argue about this thing. There is some level of complicity amongst all of them. There is no how any of them can say that they are not aware or they don't partake or they don't know or they don't pretend not to know that these things happen or where and when they happen. Okay, so who owns the tankers that move the crude oils or the crude oil when it is stolen? Whose backyard was it stolen from? When they finish stealing and you pump and the pipeline is open and is it's wasting and is what they call it,
It's leaking, it's
it's
spilling
leaking,
everywhere.
it's spilling everywhere. Who knows about that? The amount that was supposed to, so all of them together, they have an idea, they know who these things are. The security men who are there, when these things happen, do they see them? The tanker that comes to leave the oil, do they put it in their pocket and walk past the security people?
Let's put a
So
background to this.
so so
The hostcom that the host communities of Niger Delta basically are saying that the military task force, many of whom are not from the region, should be blamed. Pandef said the allegation by Pangasan that oil bunkering in Niger Delta was done in connivance with leaders on oil, which was in self-defense of self-defense, and also demanded an apology from the union. So basically, all
let
three
me
are pointing fingers at each other.
exactly, that's why I said I have read the story. I don't want to be highlighting what each person said. It would be nice for people to read this and make their own
Draw
summation
their
of
own
what this is. I mean,
conclusions.
because the moment you start saying this now, like you've said, let me just highlight this for benefit of this discussion. Now, one of the groups said these things cannot happen without an internal connivance. The minute activities of our young men who, for out of frustration, anger, and lack of what to do, without in any way supporting these activities that go into illegal refining of products, is like 0.1% of oil theft that is going on. So they admit that they do only 0.1%. They didn't say they are not doing any. So 0.1% of 500,000 barrels, how much is that? So let's take it from that perspective. All of them partake in this thing, but it's just a matter of my stealing is less than yours.
Okay,
That's
so
what
so
this
so
argument
now
is
that we
about.
know that all fingers are pointing to each other, right?
Mhm.
What is the short-term solution? What is the long-term solution? What should the government do? Because, I mean, at least we say there's no smoke without fire, so we know where at least where it's coming from. What can the government do?
Now, it is because people do this and get away with it, right? So, how can we then, even the security people that you're supposed to get, they are supposed to go to arrest people who are stealing, are conniving? Remember the other day, the one local government chairman in Rivers went to one illegal refining center and he met and they said that the DPO of that area, or is it the head of the, what's it called, civil defense, that was the chairman of that particular one. It was in the story, one of the stories we reviewed here some time ago. So even the security people that were supposed to still go and arrest them are already part of it. So you see, it's a big problem on our hands that
So the
we
government
need.
has to actively
Exactly, we
intervene.
need to find a solution, and if it has to come from out of there, maybe a fresh set of people to at least get one person, make an example of such a person, at least maybe to reduce this thing. You can see that if it's difficult for Nigeria to even meet up with our daily quota of production because of all these losses.
All right. Real quick, let's move on to our next story. So, the Reps probe alleged imposition of multiple fees on JAM candidates. So, the House of Representatives is to investigate alleged imposition of multiple processing and administration fees by the Joint Admissions and Matriculations Board and its accredited agents on candidates. But, luckily, we've seen this also over and over and over again. What is this probe going to do? How quick we see a turnaround?
Well, when JAMB returned some billions to the government for the first time, 3 or 5 years ago for the first time, we all hailed JAMB. They gave money to government to spend. It's it's a two-way thing. What do you want? You want JAMB to make money to give government to spend on other things, or you don't want people to pay for this thing. That is number one. When we make that decision, then that's where JAMB will not be able to give them 5 billion or 10 billion as they were used to. Now, it now comes back to the original, the real issue here now is that why should JAMB ask people to pay for all these items that they listed here? Printing of resource slip, 1,000, admission letter, 1,000, change of institutional cost, 2,500, retrieving JAMB registration number, 1,000 naira, admission letter with registration number 5,000, and so on and so forth. Okay, so that's aside that you have paid the regular examination fee. Okay, one can understand why JAM puts a fee on all of these things, because if it is free, people will tend to abuse it. But okay, so is 2,000 naira, 7,000 naira, 5,000 naira the appropriate fee to pay for these things? Well, maybe that is where the probe will go and say, instead of 7,000 naira, charge 1,000. Instead of 1,000, charge 200 naira. You know, those kind of things. So I think that the spirit and purpose of this probe or whatever is in the right place. Yes, and let's hope that they follow through and JAMB would also comply. Those of us who are doing this thing at this time of our lives now know how much it costing us.
All right, let's quickly take some messages because we're almost out of time. This one here from J. Crispy says the safety measures here deployed by the Lagos State government is not new as it already exists in the industry with another industry player. Also, the road division for BRT buses reduced the size of the highways and increased traffic while BRT lanes are mostly empty. Please, more BRT buses are needed. And that's Funke from Shomolu. But going back to our WhatsApp messages, this one here from Cisco Delgado, he says, good morning, Lakole. I can truly understand your point. What point exactly are you talking about? Okay, so this one here says, good morning. God bless the intelligent submission of the 1,000 taxis. We don't need more cars, but more mass transit vehicles. This government should focus on good thinking. Taya from Aja comes in to say Lagos has entered the field of competing with other ride-hailing companies. I hope they learned the mistakes of these companies. Panic button is now the magic button. Don't forget to live stream in case the button doesn't work. All right, safety always. And Ifako Gringa says, hi, Kari and Lakunle. Shops are attached to almost all the bridges in Lagos, and this isn't the first fire incident. The federal government, state government, and the local government staff collect legal and illegal fees from people doing businesses under the bridges. Massive cooling machines are mounted under the Apongbon Bridge and others to ice drinks and make ice blocks. Electric company staff also get their shares. The current eviction statement is just the normal response. Let's check back in a few months to see what has happened. Most of us are careless and lawless Nigerians, and this is Kunle Bangboe from Ifako. Okay, thank you so much, Kunle. That's actually very, very good observation. This one here says in Lagos, everyone feels like they have a legitimate right to turn public spaces to markets. Officials of the LGA even collect levies from illegal traders. Come to Satellite Town and see the mess under the ongoing bridge construction at Alakija off Lagos Badagry Expressway, or the filth on the Navy Town Road. Gilbert comes in to say, I commend the Lagos State government on the taxi initiative. Like the analyst said, we have addressed the challenges associated with the previous schemes that gradually declined the transport system. Will our bad roads in Lagos enable these taxis last? I am of the opinion we should focus more on the viable rail system. And Obi Michael comes in to say it's a shame that we cannot get a trusted people in the whole of the 200 million people in this country to secure things? It's obvious because if our leaders are not to be trusted, how would we get trusted to be able to work with them? Okay, so that's our show today. We're completely out of time, but you can take on the conversation with us on social media across all platforms, particularly on Twitter. We are at Series91, and you can use the hashtag FreshToPress91. Also, follow our analyst at Lakole70 on Twitter, so you can also tag in the conversation, and let's have that talk as well. There's more to come in a few more minutes. It'll be the Grapevine at 8:15. Praise will be joining us. We'll be reviewing his brand new album, and then of course after that, it's Lagos Talks 91, where you get to talk to us.
The headlines, the stories, the news.
Okay, thank you so much,
Lagos,
Lakole.
Lagos ride.
Analysis of national current
Why are you
affairs.
standing there and doing
Freshly pressed.
What are you doing exactly? I
I
don't know.
have no idea what he's talking about.
she started around like she was praying like she's in select church praying. You were nodding your head and doing like
Lagos
this.
traffic
What
in
happened?
the evenings can
I
be
have no
such
idea